Live from Sydney, 7 News with Mark Ferguson and Angela Cox.
Good evening. The ceasefire is holding and the first of the hostages have been embraced by their families. 3 women who spent 471 days in the hands of Hamas.
They were released as a fragile peace takes hold in the Middle East. Our correspondent Ben Downey was there for the emotional reunions.
Helicoptered home to a welcome few believed could never happen. Israelis swarming the ambulances carrying the first hostages released under the ceasefire.
I was able to touch her for a few seconds and to hear her voice saying, I love you.
They hugged, shed tears and sang. So much emotion after 15 long months.
In captivity for 471 days. She's a pure hero.
31-year-old veterinary nurse Doran Steinbrecher, Romy Gonen, 24 years old, and Jill British-Israeli national Emily Damari, all now free. Hostages turned survivors.
It's just unbelievable. All the friends are here. It's been a really torturous 24 hours because they kept moving the goalposts, but she's home, she's inside, she's with her mum. Thank God, thank you God.
Returned in good health, needing only minor medical attention. The long embrace of mothers, fathers, families who lived the torture too. Emily Damari losing 2 fingers when her kidnappers shot at her on October 7.
We will continue to monitor their clinical condition. This will take a few more days.
The final leg of this 15-month ordeal is a hero's welcome for the hostages. This, the second of 33 to be released under the first phase of this deal. But if Israel is to complete Operation Wings of Freedom, it will need to deliver this happiness dozens of times from now.
Which means more scenes like this from the centre of Gaza, where thousands of people surrounded the Red Cross convoy there to collect the hostages. Balaclava-clad Hamas fighters with trademark green bandanas facilitating the transfer of the women they denied freedom for so long, even handing them souvenir bags. An attempt to show, after 15 months of war, Hamas has survived, even if so many here have not. Gaza, a literal wasteland, as people return to what were once their homes with Israeli troops in retreat. There is no plan yet for who or how they'll rebuild.
There is a plan for the first phase of that, though. Hundreds of aid trucks can now enter Gaza each day, preventing more Palestinians dying needlessly of famine. For the Israelis, well, 4 more hostages will be released this week, taking it to 7 of 33 to be freed under phase 1 of this deal. Israel, though, says it reserves the right to continue the conflict, believing it has the backing of the US, leading many analysts to believe there is only a 50-50 chance this ceasefire lasts until phase 2. Mark?
Ben Downey with the latest from Tel Aviv. Thank you. Now, news of the ceasefire sent crowds onto the streets in Sydney's west. Live now to Amy Clements in Greenacre. Amy, what has the response been like where you are?
Mark, it has been one of jubilation and relief. Dozens of pro-Palestinian supporters came out last night as the long-awaited ceasefire began. They say that this truce couldn't have come soon enough after the deaths of so many civilians in Gaza during this 15-month conflict. There was a large police presence here, both on the ground and in the air, but it wasn't needed. The celebrations were largely peaceful, if not a little noisy. But there has been some apprehension amongst pro-Palestinian supporters, worried about whether this ceasefire will stand the test of time.
OK, thank you, Amy. In breaking news, a Liverpool woman has been arrested and charged over an anti-Semitic attack in Woollahra last month. 2 cars and 2 buildings were graffitied and the vehicles torched. The damage bill was around $20,000. The 34-year-old woman has been refused bail to appear in Liverpool court tomorrow. A man has smiled and waved at supporters as he faced court for the first time, accused of murdering another man in Sydney's northwest over the weekend. While police are still investigating a possible motive, it's been revealed the men were neighbours more than a decade ago.
An urgent mission to take down an alleged killer.
Out of nowhere, I see 3 cars, the Ryde squad, and they're all fully armed, being the Ryde squad.
Troy Rawiri was found at his uncle's Lamia apartment just after 2 p.m. yesterday, almost 24 hours after he allegedly murdered his criminal associate and former neighbour, Timothy Sixsmith. The men had previously lived at this unit block at least a decade ago.
How are you feeling about his arrest?
No comment.
48-year-old Timothy was found badly beaten inside his home in Ryde. He was taken to hospital but didn't make it. Today, his alleged killer faced Campbelltown Court. The 34-year-old's mother and brother were there to support him.
Do you know what he was doing in Ryde on Saturday? Is your son a killer? Is he dangerous?
I don't know.
What detectives do know is that Sixsmith was bashed between 2 and 5:10 on Saturday afternoon.
The accused killer only spoke in court to confirm his name and his charges. He smiled and waved to his family as he was taken back to the cells.
Rawiri remains behind bars and will return to court in March. Natasha Squarey, 7 News.
7 News has the first exclusive look tonight at Western Sydney's new airport metro. It's a life-size mock-up to give a hands-on feel.
It shows how the high-speed shuttle will come with super-size enhancements to make travelling easier for plane passengers.
Inside a Horsley Park warehouse, 7 News welcomed aboard Western Sydney's transport future.
How much wider is it?
It's about 30 centimetres wider.
The new airport trains will be metro with a twist.
A lot more space to come through.
Designed to welcome long-haul commuters. There's space for luggage, bikes, seats facing forwards, backwards and sideways.
It's a train for a different purpose, so we've got to make sure it fits all of the needs of the passengers.
With flight details on real-time displays. This replica carriage, an IKEA version of the real thing, constructed from a flat pack. It's used to test design features. We can reveal 12 real trains are now officially in production in Germany and Austria.
The assembly line has started.
And they'll start to arrive later this year, early next year, and we'll get to see them in testing.
The trains are being built for a big job ahead. They'll be moving up to 7,749 passengers every hour around Sydney's newest international airport.
The 23-kilometre line shuttling between St Mary's, the airport and Bradfield.
More than 14,000 people are working on its construction, and so many of them are from Western Sydney.
Tunnelling complete, viaducts too. Tracks will be laid this year.
Metro is coming for you. It's serious. We're in full-on production at the moment.
Serena Andaloro, 7 News.
Firefighters are battling a blaze in Sydney's east tonight. The fire is inside a waste transfer facility full of mulch in Matraville. 60 firefighters were called to the warehouse when flames erupted just after 4 this afternoon. They're working to protect a 9,000-litre tank diesel nearby.
2 children have had a narrow escape after fire broke out in a room at the Holiday Inn at Warwick Farm early this morning. The pair woke to popping sounds around 1:30 and realised a bedside table was alight. The flames quickly spread to a pillow and the mattress. The children managed to run to safety and around 100 other guests were also evacuated from their rooms. Firefighters are investigating if a lithium-ion battery caused the blaze. Peter Dutton has drawn level with Anthony Albanese in the popularity stakes with voters. Both leaders were in our state today. The opposition leader promising minimum jail terms for acts of anti-Semitism. The PM campaigning for green jobs.
The aluminium industry is a big employer, a big exporter and a big drain on power supplies.
This is the biggest consumer of energy in New South Wales.
Offering $2 billion in tax incentives to shift Australia's big 4 smelters onto purely green energy over the next decade.
This is what a future made in Australia looks like.
Announced a time ago, covering smelters there at Gladstone, Portland and Bell Bay.
The big takeout, folks, from today is jobs up, emissions down. long-term future secured. It's a $2 billion con job.
Peter Dutton asking where the massive increase in renewables would come from.
He would have to install 22,000 solar panels every single day.
Spruiking his nuclear plan, which Labor says is based on 40% less energy use by 2050.
That means businesses like this disappearing.
Peter Dutton announcing today if he wins the coming election, he'll impose mandatory sentences on acts of anti-Semitism, promising zero tolerance. As a new poll shows the coalition ahead 51-49 and Mr Dutton level with Anthony Albanese's preferred Prime Minister, Mr Dutton's promising a mandatory 6-year minimum sentence for any terrorist act.
We will provide the will to stamp out anti-Semitism in our country.
And what people are looking for when it comes to anti-Semitism is the country to unite.
Our leaders, though, deeply divided. Mark Riley, 7 News.
In the coming hours, Donald Trump will officially be sworn in as President of the United States again. On the eve of his inauguration, he addressed thousands of his supporters in Washington, D.C., where he vowed to make sweeping changes to America on day one.
Basking in his glory at his final rally as President-elect.
We won!
Donald Trump vowing change is hours away.
But starting tomorrow, I will act with historic speed and strength and fix every single crisis facing our country.
Following through with election promises, hinting at freedom for January 6 rioters, a reprieve for TikTok and his centrepiece policy, immigration.
By the time the sun sets tomorrow evening, the invasion of our borders will have come to a halt.
His new billionaire bestie and government money man joining him on stage.
Did you see his rocket yesterday?
We're looking forward to making a lot of changes.
The former and future president performing his signature move. The celebration flowing onto Washington's streets.
24 hours left until he is King of America.
The golden age of America has arrived.
For most, this is as close as they'll get to the historic swearing in. With below freezing temperatures forecast, it's been moved inside the Capitol building. All living former US presidents are attending, including outgoing President Joe Biden. Tech execs and celebs on the guest list. Meta's Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos and TikTok's CEO. Australian billionaires Gina Rinehart and Anthony Pratt. Ambassador Kevin Rudd, who was once an outspoken Trump critic, is invited. Foreign Affairs Minister Penny Wong says that relationship is mending.
We look forward to working with the new administration, as I said, to advance our shared interests.
Tonight, Donald Trump has told an Inauguration Eve dinner he will sign close to 100 presidential orders tomorrow.
We will not waste a single moment in delivering on our promises to the people.
For years, Donald Trump has hyped up his plans for day one back in the White House. Now, the flurry of change is here, exciting for millions of Americans and deeply worrying for millions more. In Washington, D.C., Tim Lester, 7 News.
And we will have special coverage of Donald Trump's second inauguration live from 3 o'clock tomorrow morning.
There are calls for the cost of parking to be cut at hospitals across the city after it was revealed just how much revenue they're raking in. Visitors to state hospitals forked out $50 million last year, and it's our West getting slugged the most.
If anyone should get relief from parking, it's a cancer patient like Marilyn Batson.
Some people are too scared to speak up. The government gets away with murder.
Her kids take it in turns to pay for parking at Blacktown Hospital.
You have to be here every single day, and it's challenging, so we want to stay here for as long as we can.
Yeah, I think it's about $12.60 an hour, so it just depends how long we're here.
That's on top of medical bills.
Many families, particularly the patients, cannot work and don't return to work. So any further costs can put their treatment and their care at jeopardy.
$51.7 million was made across the state, an extra $21 million on the year before. The hotspot, Western Sydney, raked in $11 million, an extra $2.8 million.
It is a tax on the people who are sick
and their families.
The Health Department says profits increased after a pause in free parking for hospital staff during the pandemic. The government says it reinvests the cash back into hospitals. A midwife student at a Western Sydney hospital told us she has to bring a spare set of clothes every day to validate her parking ticket because the parking station there is private. She didn't want to be identified because she wants a job there one day.
It's one expense after the other and it's not fair.
Tom Saker, 7 News.